Oh, hello once again.
Hello and welcome to That's English.
Today's documentary looks at the art of persuasion, an art that goes back to the time of the Greek philosopher Aristotle.
And still used by many professionals today, such as salespeople and those masters of persuasion, politicians.
We'll meet Tina, who actually trains people in the art.
She talks about the many variables involved in persuasion.
We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender.
In 1940, Winston Churchill made one of the most famous speeches in British history. He captured the nation's heart and persuaded thousands of Britons to fight in World War II. So how did he do it? Many believe that persuasion is an art. Politicians are masters of persuasion, as are lawyers, salesmen, and advertising agencies. Tina Lamb works at Impact Factory, a company that helps people develop their skills in sales and negotiation. She tells us why persuasion is considered an art.
The art of persuasion. The reason it's an art is because there's so many variables. You've got human elements, you've got content variables, depending what you're trying to get them to do, even situational variables. Where are you telling somebody something? Where are you trying to persuade them? And if you put all those factors together, getting it right is an art.
So what type of persuasion techniques can be used?
There are many different types of tools and techniques that here at Impact Factory we look at. Amongst those, probably the most important is awareness and observation. Because without listening, without being aware, you could well try to persuade somebody to do something in a way that isn't going to work, not because they don't want to, but because you have used the wrong tactic. And the most important one.
Tina tells us about some of the tricks involved in the art of persuasion.
The first thing I'm going to do is to look at the benefits to them. So for instance, when I'm trying to persuade a client to move a training from one space to another, so I made it all about her delegates, her commitment, her financial commitment, and the benefits to her.
Nick Fox works for an advertising agency. They help companies sell their products and brands to the public. He tells us how important persuasion is in his job.
Advertising is not a science, it is an art. And persuasion is a human emotion. I'm looking for a human truth, fundamentally, that I can attach a message to. That's where it all begins.
That means creating ads that show people with whom the audience can identify.
Emotionally, we react first with what you see and what you feel, and then finally you engage brain.
The art of persuasion can also be useful in everyday situations.
There really isn't a situation where you're not persuading somebody to do something. If two people meet in a doorway, one will persuade the other with eye contact and a slight physicality who's going to go first. That's an influencing situation. So I would look for opportunities to be more conscious about your persuasion skills and who you're persuading and why. It's quite simple.
Tina's helping a client who wants to ask her boss about a promotion.
Now, is it right you have a situation which is ongoing that you would like to influence somebody?
Yes.
She gives her clients tips using a plan that dates back to ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle.
You offer a solution, state the benefits of the solution or the risks of not using the solution, and then you need a call to action at the end.
Right.
And just with this simple structure, even on a personal situation like your own, will add a persuasive element and impactfulness to your request.
Today I've learned about the power of persuasion and how if you're going to have a persuasive conversation with somebody, it's important to know the structure of your conversation and to have a clear beginning, middle and end to it.
So as you can see, simple, persuasive techniques can be very important for convincing thousands to go to war, selling a product, or getting the job of your dreams.
So, one of the key things when persuading people is to observe, listen, and be aware of who you're talking to make sure you use the appropriate tactic.
I thought Tina explained things very well.
You offer a solution, state the benefits of the solution or the risks of not using the solution, and then you need a call to action at the end.
So it's not just enough to persuade someone. You need a call to action to make sure the person puts it into practice.
Now it's time to hear from our international friends. We asked them, what campaigns has your government carried out in recent years to persuade people about something?
And how effective have they been?
The New Zealand government has launched an enormous campaign to improve biosecurity. That means stopping people importing plants, animals and insects that might affect our crops, our fauna or flora.
Australia is very much affected by the changing climate. Our ozone layer is very, very thin now. The Australian government has tried to make people aware of the changes that we need to make in our lifestyle.
So Canada traditionally is a country that is about freedom, but recently the government has started a campaign to increase the police and spying in order to combat terrorism. So that's the latest campaign.
The government has recently introduced a campaign for plain packaging for cigarettes. Unfortunately, this has just made children more curious about smoking.
Recently, we were having a healthcare debate in America. We were trying to establish a healthcare reform, and 50% of the population were for it and 50% were against it. And it was, tough for both sides, but I don't think it's even resolved now at this point.
Recently, I personally don't think that the government's been very effective in getting any message across other than kind of partisan issues. But the one that has been rather effective is recycling and reusing things. And that doesn't make just good sense for the environment. It also makes good sense cost price-wise because you save money when you reuse things.
So successful campaigns seem to be ones related to the protection of the environment.
Yes. In New Zealand, they're trying to improve biosecurity, which means stopping the import of plants or animals. In Australia, there's a campaign to protect the ozone layer.
The last speaker from the US also mentioned effective recycling and reusing campaigns.
Now let's see what Jodie's up to in That's the USA.
Today, she's in the historic town of St. Augustine, the former capital of Florida.
And, as you'll see, there's a lot of Spanish influence in St. Augustine.
Hello, today we're in St. Augustine, the nation's oldest European established settlement. It was founded by the Spanish Admiral Pedro Menéndez de Avilés. This charming city was the capital of Spanish Florida for over 200 years. Its rich heritage, historical significance, and beautiful architecture have made it a major tourist attraction. Almost everything in this city is old, at least by U.S. standards. In the heart of the city is the Plaza de la Constitución. It's been a center for public activity since the 16th century. Under this wooden arch is Avilés Street, named after the city's founder. It's the oldest public street in the USA. This is the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park. The 15-acre park is believed to be the landing site of Spanish explorer Ponce de Leon in 1513. The Fountain of Youth is a natural spring that is said to restore the youth of anyone who drinks it or bathes in its waters. I'm here with Kit at the fountain. Kit, tell me the story of the fountain.
Well, the fountain is a natural spring which has flowed here for millennia. The Timucua lived here starting in about 3000 BC, and it was a very nice home to them. Juan Ponce de Leon showed up here in 1513, searching for his spring of eternal hope.
Now, will it really make me younger or keep me young?
Do you believe?
If that's what it takes, yes, I believe. Shall we try it?
Okay.
Great.
Wonderful.
Everywhere you look, St. Augustine offers impressive views, stunning architecture, and charming atmosphere. St. George Street was once the main street here. This is the oldest wooden schoolhouse, the oldest surviving wood-framed building in the city. The Ponce de Leon Hotel was an exclusive Spanish Renaissance-style hotel. Today, this iconic landmark is home to Flagler College. I'm at the Castillo de San Marcos. It was built between 1672 and 1695. It's constructed with coquina, a stone made of small shells. I'm here with Jill, who's a park ranger here at the Castillo. Jill, give us a brief history of the fort.
Well, the Spanish started building the Castillo in 1672. It was built to defend the city of St. Augustine and be a refuge for the people in times of attack.
And how did the Spanish persuade the indigenous people to let them stay here in Florida?
Well, their strategy in Florida was a little kinder than some other parts of the country. They were here to help spread the Catholic religion, so to convert the locals, they obviously had to have good relations with them, and so they created missions throughout Northeast Florida and even married into the local tribes.
What influence have the Spanish had on the city over time?
The most lasting influence that we can still see today, I would say, is architectural. We have the Castillo, the cathedral on the plaza downtown, and many historic buildings left over from the Spanish.
Great. Thank you so much, Jill.
You're welcome.
And now to end our trip to St. Augustine with a bang, a chance to see the old artillery at work. See you next time in Miami.
What an attractive town, and with so much history.
Yes, there were some impressive buildings from the Spanish colonial period and the Spanish Renaissance style.
It was interesting what the park ranger said about how the Spanish tried to establish good relations with the indigenous people.
I think we should go to the Fountain of Youth. I'm sure Jodie looked younger after she'd drunk the water. Well, here's to youth. Bye.
Bye-bye.